I want to introduce you now to the Renter's Warehouse Investment Planner, a 4-page questionnaire of sorts designed to help you set forth your long-term investment strategy by beginning with the end in mind. Step 1 is the vision. Please choose the objective or objectives of your investment plan. Retirement income, retirement cash, college tuition, replacing your job. These are all exciting long-term goals for anybody, and real estate is an incredibly good vehicle to make those happen. Short-term income, short-term cash, we do not recommend that. We have it on the questionnaire so that if somebody does answer this way, we'd like to talk you out of it and have you realize that short-term thinking when it comes to any kind of an investment plan is unnatural and probably going to cause you to make mistakes. How old are you? When do you plan on retiring, and how many years do we have to work with? Where do you plan on retiring? Whose future are you providing for? Please explain. I would want anybody who's doing this questionnaire to take a few minutes and think about this one and put the names on the paper. There are children in your life, potentially. There are going to be grandchildren, or maybe there are grandchildren in your life. Let's put their names down here. Let's take a moment to put their faces in our minds so that what we end up with as we design this is we create a direct connection to the people that matter to us in this plan. So who are you providing for? Please explain. Can you describe the lifestyle that you envision for yourself when you retire? Again, dream a little. All right, later on, we're going to talk about assigning properties to those objectives. So where do you want to live? What do you want it to be like? Are you a mountain person? Are you a lake person? Are you a beach person? Are you a downtown city person? Think about it. Write it down. All right. Dream about your future because you're going to make it happen. What is your targeted net worth at retirement? What percentage of that net worth do you intend to acquire through real estate investing? Have you ever owned investment property? Do you still own it? Please describe the investment plan. This question is an important one because most people probably didn't have one, which means that this experience is already starting off better than their last investing experience. Step 2 is the investor profile. Okay, this is about understanding yourself as an investor. First, financial. The cash requirements. It is critical to acknowledge certain financial requirements of successful real estate investing. Please answer yes or no to the following questions. Are you prepared to hold your real estate investment for 10 years? You should be. Do you have enough initial capital to make a minimum of 25% down payment and have 1 year of payments in reserve? You need to. Are you prepared to cover cash shortfalls if A, the units are vacant for a few months, or B, initially the property's rent does not cover operating expenses and debt? You shouldn't have a situation where B comes to pass, where you actually buy an investment that doesn't actually cover its expenses, but it's important to understand that there are shortfalls potentially, and you're going to want to have reserves. Do you understand that investment properties periodically require repairs, maintenance, and renovation? Do you have cash reserves for those eventualities? In all of our calculators, we have a 10% of gross rent reserve baked into the calculator. We recommend that every investor take 1/10 of every rent check that comes in, set it aside so that they have the reserves for when something does inevitably break. It's not a problem. And they don't put off making the repairs because they have the money set aside. So these are all important things for somebody to come into this space and realize that it takes some money to get into this. Anybody who's new to investing, who sees these realities, is going to realize that maybe they can't do it as soon as they want. But to those folks, we say, don't despair. Start doing your research. Okay, all of our technology and our relationship is about helping people do this correctly. And if it takes you 5 years to get ramped up because you have to save your money, that's okay with us. Right? We're here for you, and you can really enrich your understanding of the asset class by using that time to not just save, but to also research and plan. Next, we have what we call the Landlord scoring system. Okay, we of course are a property management company, but not every customer that we sell property to is going to want to have us manage. This is a very effective tool to having them kind of diagnose their own capacity as a landlord. On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, are you a do-it-yourselfer? Are you able to make repairs yourself in construction, electrical, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, and landscaping? 5 is, I'm very good at it. I can do this very frequently. 1 is, I don't know how to swing a hammer. I would circle 1 on every one of these categories, so I'm not a do-it-yourselfer. Let's move down to general contractor. General contractor means that I'll be using contractors, but I have working relationships with contractors in construction, electrical, heating and AC, plumbing, and landscaping. How confident am I in those relationships and in those contractors? So most people are going to have a 4 and a 5 in contracting, but only a 1 in electrical. They don't really have a guy. They have a 3 in heating and AC. They're going to Christmas tree this grid, and that gives them an idea of if you're going to do this yourself, one way or the other, you need to have 4s and 5s in every one of these categories, so you have some work to do. Or when something breaks, you're going to wind up scrambling at that point, which is also okay. Next category is financial. Do you have working relationships with trusted financial professionals, tax advisor, attorney, and lender? Okay, if they're missing an advisor, it's our responsibility to help them find somebody, so we can make referrals, and we would do that to make sure that you're very confident in your tax attorney and lender. Tenant management. This is a good one. Do you currently have a rental agent to market your rentals to tenants? Do you have the ability to run credit reports on prospective tenants? How comfortable are you calling a tenant who is late on their rent? Very comfortable? Not comfortable at all. How comfortable are you dropping by in person to collect rent if somebody is late? All right, these are all functions of being an effective landlord. If you do not feel comfortable, these are the kind of things that will lead you to hiring Renters Warehouse. The next section is detailing out some of the characteristics of the various property types, just to give people a sense of what it's like to own single family, condos, 2 to 4 family, or commercial real estate. So single family, our favorite. Maintenance is fairly straightforward. It's a landlord's responsibility, most of it, except for lawn maintenance usually. And it's pretty easily understood. People grew up in a house, probably they may live in one now, so they kind of have the general gist of what maintenance looks like for single family. Tenant management is that you have one tenant at a time. The rent collection is easier because it's only one tenant, but you do have a risk of total vacancy. If that tenant either doesn't pay or moves out, you have no income. So that's a downside of single family. The financial requirements, it is harder to break even on single family because they tend to be expensive and you have only one rent coming in. So you have to make sure that you really understand the rentability of that property and what the rent would be. The values are very stable, because home values are driven by owner-occupied homeowners more than investors. And in good times and bad, good economies and bad, home ownership still happens. People buy homes based upon life situations and circumstances, not just financial. And so that stabilizes the values, and single-family homes are very easily sold. It's a very robust and transparent market to sell homes. Condominiums are a little bit different. 2 to 4 family is different, and commercial is much more complex across the board. This is just a table to give you some education on the various property types and what they're like. Now we go on to step 3, property profiles. Please indicate your interest in each. Well, we just went over the different property types. So are you very interested in single family, condo, 2, 3, 4 family, and commercial? This is basically your opportunity to indicate that. The next section talks about location. Everyone knows that location is the first rule of real estate. It's absolutely true. And understanding yourself is the first starting point on figuring out where to invest. Choosing the right location is very personal to an investor. Most investors are comfortable owning close to where they live, but sometimes it makes sense to look elsewhere. Use the following questions as a guide to discovering your ideal market or markets. Often there are places in your life that make ideal investments. So let's say you live someplace that's very expensive, very high taxed, and you really can't generate a good return on investment there. So the question is, where do you go on vacation? You're familiar with that place. Where do you plan to retire? They may be the same place. A lot of New Yorkers go on vacation in Florida, plan to retire there. That makes Florida a very attractive potential investor market. Where do friends and family live that you visit occasionally? Again, familiarity and the potential to actually be there. Where did you used to live? Or where did you go to college? Is there a place that you've always been intrigued by but never visited? Some people just love the idea of Scottsdale, Arizona, or Charleston, South Carolina, or you know what? It could be anywhere. This is an opportunity for you to bring another location into your world by beginning to do research there and then visiting and then investing, and then that place that you've always been intrigued by becomes part of your life. Step 4, matching properties with investors. Very, very important step. Real estate investments should be compartmentalized. Each property acquired should be connected with a specific goal, whether it's retirement income, lifestyle, college planning, estate planning. I want you to be thinking about this exciting future 10, 20, 30 years down the line and start actually identifying specific things that you need to plan for and then connecting properties with those things. Okay, so it could be financial stability. It could be my dream home. It could be my boat or my Corvette. It could be sending kids to college. Whatever is important to me, whether it's frivolous and whimsical or responsible and pragmatic, I want to connect properties to those objectives. Therefore, when I actually buy the property, I know that I've been successful at accounting for that outcome later on. And as the property matures, the goal matures as well. Each property must also be a good match with the investor's ability to maintain, manage the tenants, and handle the financial obligations. By connecting a property with a long-term financial goal, advisors accomplish two very important things. One, they embed a long-term perspective for the investment. Short-term real estate investments are risky, long-term investments are not. Number two, they connect the property with something important to them. Remember, real estate is not a passive investment. There's work involved. The motivation, tolerance, and patience to do the work is derived from keeping your eye on the prize.